in a place called Key West, Florida. I am at the National Weather Service, which we found just driving through Key West, and I said, what is this place? And here I am, live on a Friday morning, and it is March 21st, the first day after spring, and I am with Ship KASPER with a K. Good morning. How are you today?
Good morning, Deborah. It's great to see you.
It's great to see you and finally meet you, because we talked on the phone and I asked if I could do an interview with you today, and here we are at the station. And I got to tell you one thing that just came to mind. This is a very clean place. That's the first thing I noticed about walking in this place. Everything is very clean, and congratulations to keeping a great place like this. So let's go on to why we are here today. I want to know all about this place, and you can just tell us all about it.
Sure thing, yeah. So this is a weather forecast office with the National Weather Service, which is a government agency under NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. And NOAA is a line office under the United States Department of Commerce. And so our mission is provide weather, water, and climate information, products and services for the protection of life and property. And our particular service area here in the Florida Keys, our office is in Key West. We cover all of the Florida Keys, but also a very large maritime area, including the southeastern Gulf, Florida Bay, and the Straits of Florida, which is the body of water between the Florida Keys and Cuba. And
oh wow, you cover a lot.
Yeah, and this is some very busy maritime areas. You're talking about snorkeling, swimming, fishing, diving around the Keys. In the Straits of Florida, the Department of Defense has estimated that 40% of the world's maritime commerce basically travels through those shipping lanes each and every year. You're talking about cargo ships, tank ships, cruise ships, and the like. And so we're providing the marine weather forecasts and the warnings to support safe navigation and safety of life at sea. And so to that end, we also work with the Coast Guard sector right here in Key West. The Coast Guard has a full sector here in Key West, and then 3 boat stations, and an aids to navigation team, several fast response cutters, and other law enforcement vessels. And so we work with them very closely to keep the public safe and to keep their operators safe as well. Right here, I'm standing on our operations floor, and this is where we staff 24/7, 365 meteorologists on duty. Usually it's 2 meteorologists. If we have a busy weather event like a hurricane or a significant severe weather event, we'll surge up that staffing in line with the mission. But this is where we provide forecasts as required by law for not only maritime but aviation interests. We have 2 busy airports here in the Keys, Key West International and Florida Keys Marathon International Airport.
Let me interrupt for a minute. What is the most people that you could ever remember in this station for an event?
Well, I would say for Hurricane Irma back in September of 2017, we pretty much had the entire staff here. This building that we're in is actually was built in 2005, and it's built to basically withstand the strongest hurricanes.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, so we're elevated, we're fortified, a lot of steel reinforced concrete, all around, and it's rated to category 5 strength hurricane. It's elevated above the maximum storm surge, and that's important because we need to keep our people safe so that we can support our partners here.
So I know where to go if I'm here.
Yeah, we'll have to put you to
I'll
work
be knocking on your door. I'll work for you, no problem. I will volunteer. I'm that kind of a person. So what I want to know is, what do you remember was like the most exciting time of your life, say, in this building?
Sure, that again would have to be Hurricane Irma back in September of 2017. Hurricane Irma developed off the coast of Africa initially, and then gained strength as it headed toward Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. It skirted the north end of the Virgin Islands in Puerto Rico as a Category 5 hurricane, the strongest of all, and then it kind of went through the Greater Antilles, Cuba, the Bahamas, lost just a little bit of strength over Cuba, and then re-intensified as it curved north toward the Florida Peninsula. Eventually made landfall right here in the Keys, actually at Cudjoe Key, which is up the road a bit, as a Category 4 hurricane on the Saffir-Simpson hurricane wind scale, and then proceeded to go up the Florida Peninsula and really caused a lot of damage and destruction and loss of life throughout
Wow.
the Florida Peninsula and the Keys.
So you saw it all.
Yeah, that was definitely probably the most intense work experience of my career. I also worked here during Hurricane Wilma back in 2005, and that was also a very intense experience. But Hurricane Irma easily takes the prize there.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, around the operations floor, you'll just see a lot of computers. A meteorologist is a scientist that studies the atmosphere, and we're basically trying to take our scientific knowledge as well as our local knowledge and our local knowledge of weather patterns and ocean patterns, and then in addition, our knowledge of what's important to the most vulnerable populations here in the Keys, and then to those who protect and serve those populations, emergency managers, like I mentioned, the Coast Guard,
Yes,
military
yes.
officers, elected officials, law
Yes.
enforcement, and we work with those communities and those partners and try to give them the information they need to make decisions that will end up helping people. And that's kind of basically the name of the game. So everything we do here is designed toward that end. One of the things we still do here that helps us tremendously is we release weather balloons twice a day. And so we have an elevated tower on the other side of the facility where in the early morning and the early evening, we'll release a weather balloon filled with helium up into the atmosphere. It has a payload, which is basically a miniature weather station that only weighs about 4 ounces, but it measures
right?
temperature, humidity, pressure, and then we can also calculate winds, wind direction and speed. This balloon travels up at about 1,000 feet per minute and really is able to sample over 99% of the mass of the atmosphere. Eventually it expands and it pops at the top of the atmosphere, on average around maybe about 17, 18 miles above the ground. But it really provides a lot of really good data, not only for our local diagnostic purposes in terms of understanding where the cloud layers are and where the wind shears are and where what the stability is of the atmosphere, but the data from our balloons as well as those from the other stations in the network, not only around the country but around the world, helps initialize all the computer models that not only the United States models use, but every country. And so there's an agreement under the United Nations, under the World Meteorological Organization, where all the countries' weather services around the world will share these data and use them to initialize their models so that we can have state-of-the-art forecasts. And again, the goal being to help protect life and property.
I'm going to mention tornado. What stands out for you?
Tornadoes, you may think of tornadoes as occurring across Kansas or the southern Great Plains of the United States, but tornadoes actually can occur in every state. And even here in the subtropical Florida Keys, a lot of times the tornadoes that we see are in the outer rain bands of those approaching tropical storms and hurricanes. And they can be very destructive. And I remember issuing a tornado warning as Hurricane Ike was kind of pulling away from the Florida Keys actually back in 2008.
Right.
And those tornadoes that occur in the outer rain bands move very, very fast. So you don't have a lot of time to issue the warning. But we did issue a warning, and then the tornado actually happened, and it hit parts of Lower Matecumbe Key and caused some damage, but thankfully no loss of life.
Wow. Okay, well, we are on part 1, and stay tuned for part 2 with Chip KASPER with a K. And yes, we will call him KASPER the Friendly Man.